All right, here we go. Today we have Louisiana royalty in the building. Young Bleed, welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, my brother. It's an honor and a pleasure and a long time coming, Vlad. So finally, good and glad to have made it here, man. I'm going to say it like that.
Oh, yeah, man. We've been talking about doing this for, man, almost a decade, I think.
Almost a decade, if not a decade plus, something like that.
Yeah, we finally made it happen.
Yes, sir. Beautiful, man.
Well, it's your first time here. I want to start in the very, very, very beginning.
Okay,
So you grew up in Baton Rouge.
Yes, sir. The South Side Bottoms, man. G Street, man. Yeah, the G Street.
Okay, and your mom had you at 17.
Yeah, she was 17, yes. Yeah.
And I guess there was a situation at the time where they told her that she might not make it, so she had a choice whether to have the baby or live,
Yes, sir. Definitely, man. 1974, June 6th, I just turned 50, man. Thursday, celebrating 50 years of life and the 50 years of hip-hop. But back to that essential, man, definitely, man. The day I was born was the day I almost wasn't here. My mother, pretty much laid down her life for me, man. She took that chance, and God saw fit that we both made it, and she's still here. So, yeah.
Okay, so your mom was a teenager, so she was like 16 when she got pregnant?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and your biological dad raised you up until a certain point until they broke up, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and how old were you when they broke up?
I want to say anywhere between maybe 7 and 8 years old, somewhere along that line.
Okay, so you had a relationship with him. That's like second grade or so?
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, second, third grade, yeah.
Okay, do you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, me and my dad is cool, you know what I mean, and I always did, despite of, you know what I mean. But yeah, I might have lived back with my pops when I turned about 21 for a little while, and never again. But yeah, I go check on him and, make sure he all right, that type of thing.
Okay, when your parents broke up, your mom, she got remarried?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, so then you're raised by your stepfather?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So tell me what Baton Rouge was like in the, late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s. Just as well as any other ghetto, I'd say, around the country. That crack epidemic, you know what I mean? I'm a 70s baby into the 80s, so that whole evolution was taking place in our area as well. So, it's a beautiful place, but, there is a dark side. So that part of it, man, pretty much, whatever you could think of was going down. I grew up between LSU and the downtown, you know what I mean? So in one sense, the best of both worlds, then the crookedness of both worlds, man. So, that type of thing, hip-hop has evolved, what had he evolved, and like you say, going more into the 90s. So, yeah, it's a lot coming to mind when you say that, Vlad, actually from that transition to something recent as the late 80s, the DOC into Compton's Most Wanted and that type of thing was in the atmosphere, hustling and so on and so forth,
Well, you talked about when you were 16, a friend of yours got killed by a cop.
Yes. His name was Chauncey, man. I can't call Chauncey last name. That's how long that had been. But he was a younger homie, man, the Gardner Lane area of Baton Rouge, and had a little altercation from what I understood. And was running with a pistol, and one of the neighbors picked up the phone and called the police on him, and they tracked him down in a bando apartment. And as he was hiding behind the door, the sheriff busted in and shot through that door and murdered my partner real young. I made a song and contribute to that by the name of When Dirty Harry Meets Sally. If you remember back then, the Harry Met Sally movie, where I took it and flipped it and related to that situation, yeah.
I mean, what do you think was the most serious situation that you saw or were involved with during that time?
Early 90s. I'll give you this story, Vlad. For anybody that know anything about South Baton Rouge and where we come from, my uncle, we had that epidemic took place real hard in my family after the death of my grandfather. And in that broken up home time, I lived, off and on with my grandparents and stuff like that. But I had an uncle by the name of James Donald Johnson Jr. He was my granddaddy's first son. But he was on anything you can name, man. So he get full of that PCPs, cocaine, all that one night. You know, the little power sections in the neighborhood that fueled the neighborhood. He climbed that fence and climbed on a live wire and took anywhere from 7,000 to 13,000 votes. They pronounced him dead. He come back to life, tried it again. But that first time, he cut off all the lights in South Baton Rouge. So to remind anybody, I say, remember the time? My uncle was the one that cut off all them lights in South Baton Rouge. So that type of thing was in the household and to the neighborhood, you know? Yeah.
Okay, speaking of your grandfather, you were actually named after him, right?
I took my name from him, Vlad. Actually, when my mother was still pregnant, my granddaddy was a World War II veteran. So, you know, my mother is his first daughter. So the way her stomach was, he said she looked like a army tank. And if she had a little boy, that's what his nickname would be. So the rest is history. So throughout my finding myself with this rap thing before he passed away, I told him when I was about a 9-year-old kid, you know, one day that I wanted to be a rapper and have a record company. So after so many transitions and so many names, right before I signed with Priority Records, you know, I said, this one here for the money, so I'm gonna keep this one and what it means to me the most. So I went back to those walks and talks with Granddad, you know what I'm saying, and me saying that. They used to call him Good Bleed in the street, so he was good to bleed you with his hands, you know what I mean? He was a hell of a man. But so I took that, you know what I mean, and kind of put the family on my back and been walking with it ever since, man. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so around 11 years old, you met C-Loc.
Yes, 11, 12, I say 11, 12. I want to say I was in the 7th grade. I don't think we knew each other when I was in the 6th grade. Loc being a year older than me. So yeah, you might be right, 11, 12. We met somewhere in middle school, grew in the same neighborhood, but didn't go to the same elementary schools. So yeah, you're right when you say that, 11, 12 years old.
Okay, was that around the time you started rapping and recording your raps?
I started recording at 11, but I had been rapping since like 82, 83. I started writing officially in 1983, the 4th grade. Yeah.
Okay, so you started recording raps, and then you would just press them up and just sell them in the neighborhood, like on tapes?
Well, I was making, you know, the demo tapes and different things, and, you know, and utilizing them in talent shows. But somewhere later in life, a friend of mine by the name of Steven Sterling come to me. He had a big brother named Todd Sterling and a big cousin named Michael B. Williams that was out of Ohio, actually, had just moved in Louisiana. And they was starting a production company. I was one of the, where they was looking for a young rapper. And my partner Steve said he knew a guy that stayed in the back of the Mayfair East Side, you know what I mean, of Baton Rouge. And if they was interested, he'll put us together. And those guys actually pressed my first tape, like 500 tapes, 2,500, you know, we made off for them. I forget, we paid 500 for them, whatever the case might have been, but those were the first guys to put some money behind me and believe in me and put something on the square for me. So throughout the high schools, middle schools, and of course the dope spots and everywhere, corner stores, I could put a tape in some of the moms and pop stores, you know, on some consignment. So shouts out to Mike B. Williams and Steve Sterling, man. And Steve Sterling and Todd Sterling, as a matter of fact, for putting out that first tape. And actually, that was the tape I had, the Dirty Harry Met Sally. But the single that I had on it was called Much Love. It was a Barcade sample, and the Friends drums meshed together. And that's the first record I had on the radio between about 16 and 17 years old.
Okay, and then at one point, you guys formed Concentration Camp. And it was you, C-Loc, Max Minnelli, Javon, and Chris Hamilton, who was Javon's younger brother.
Okay, he was around, but more or less in the building with me right now is my brother Lee Time, which is like him and Loc was the founders of C-Loc Records. You know, we was all homies, and I came in later, and that's we started to build into those guys. You know, I came up with the idea that, well, hey, man, we need a clicolation that was more than just everything was C-Loc at the time, the records and so on and so forth. So as we built and morphed into a fam, that's the name I came up with, passed it on to Loc and Lee Time, of course. And, you know, we accepted that, everybody else accepted, and, you know, the camp was birthed, I want to say, like 95, 96, something like that.
Okay, and by that time, C-Loc was already rapping and kind of having his music out there on the radio and so forth?
Definitely. He was actually getting ready to do a third album or something like that, and that the self-titled Concentration Camp album became that third album, you know what I mean, as we built. But yeah, they had singles and different things out. A few guys in the neighborhood, shouts out to my cousin Silker Slim and the Bottom Posse, Joker P and those guys, evolved straight out of South Baton Rouge. Then I was doing my tape thing. Then he again, Lee Time and Loc formed C-Loc Records, and you know, us three, and you know, long before Boosie would evolve, but straight in that, you know, off the same block, same neighborhood. That's our neighborhood nucleus as far as rap music as a whole.
Okay, so then right around 97, you put together the song How You Do That independently.
Yes. I want to say 96, maybe even 96, Vlad. 97, the About It soundtrack came out. I was actually working on a solo record, you know, coming off the Camp album. But on the Camp, it gave us all the opportunity to display our own, you know, separate talents and bring that to the table. And that was my solo effort. So it grew its own legs, and somewhere between 96 and 97, it caught the ears of Master P. You know, I'll let you take it from there, not going too far, but yeah.
Okay, so originally this song was called The Fool?
Yeah, A Fool. Yeah,
A Fool.
A Fool.
Got it.
Yeah.
And was that sort of a takeoff from King T's Act a Fool?
Absolutely, King T's Act a Fool. You know, I'm a King T head, man, since back in the Gap. We mentioned Compton's Most Wanted. So I grew with, you know, that whole evolution from the late 70s, 80s hip-hop into the 90s, and definitely King T was one of them guys that I listened to all the time and was inspired by that particular Act a Fool album and song. Yeah.
Yeah, classic album, man.
Definitely one
King
of the greatest.
T's Act a Fool, man.
Yeah, one of the
Absolute
greatest, man.
West Coast classic. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
sir.
100%. 100%.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the song was produced by you and Happy Perez?
Yes, originally.
Originally. Yes. Okay, and you guys put it together. Mm-hmm. How did it get from, you know, this local song to Master P finding it?
I didn't know for a while that No Limit headquarters was in Baton Rouge. But as Loc and Master P started working together and combining the cliques, he got his ear on it, and I got word back that he wanted to do a remix, and I offered to sign with Priority Records and come out to California the whole nine. Offer I couldn't refuse, and pretty much that. He wanted to use it for that Body soundtrack. And once he took it from the Camp album to the Body soundtrack, yeah, you know, it grew a whole nother pair of legs. So yeah, basically that.
Okay, so when you hear the original version and then the Master P version, because what Beats by the Pound came in and kind of remixed it a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. They enhanced it. I say they re-enhanced it. So yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right, and then Master P jumps on it and he does his own verse on it, and he's on the hook as well, partly.
Yes.
Okay, so he likes the song, they remix it, he jumps on it, it goes on the I'm 'Bout It movie soundtrack.
Yes.
Which at the time was a huge deal.
Wow. I want to say, especially for those independent films, definitely in the South, it hadn't been done like that to that magnitude. So yeah, it took off running. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, back then, I mean, these days anyone could take an iPhone and make their own little movie, but back then, nobody was making independent movies like that, especially a rapper. Like that was just unheard of.
At all, right, yes.
Right. You know, and, you know, listen, the movie, I mean, didn't have the highest production value, but it was entertaining. It was funny.
Oh, yeah. A great B-level, one of the greatest B-level films, man, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I guess the question is, at that point, why didn't you sign to No Limit as opposed to Priority?
Just kind of how things evolved with me, Vlad. I had a chance to go sit with P, you know, on a couple of occasions. And once I found out the headquarters was in Baton Rouge, did a little work over there. Actually, the last 3 songs that was added to that album, we took like 3 or 4 songs off my original Bars in My Word, just to coincide with No Limit. So that was kind of there. But me and P never really had that conversation directly. You know what I mean? It was in my face. He introduced me to a whole lot of things. And before I knew it, I still was working a day job, Vlad. So shouts out to my manager, John Capaldi, man, Concentration Camp, C-Loc Records, and the Corleone fam. called me one day at work. And while they was working that deal, I still was waking up and, like I say, working a day job and a night job and everything on the in between. So that's how it was given to me, you know what I mean? More in the effort of priority signing me than P. You know what I'm saying? The P got me my deal. I always give him that credit for that, but that's how that took place in that fast tone, you know?
All right, because I'll be honest, like all these years, like I was literally today years old when I realized that was not a No Limit album.
Right. The world's still figuring that out right now, Vlad. Yeah.
Right, because when you look at it, number one, the cover looks like a No Limit album cover.
Right. Pen and Pixel, man. Shouts out to Pen and Pixel back in the gap.
Right. Pen and Pixel was like a go-to for Master P. So you had these over-the-top, you know, big blingy kind of, you know, giant lions and jewelry and everything else like that.
Yes, sir.
And the album had Master P art. I mean, it had No Limit artists all over it. Master P's on it. Mystical's on it. Fiend is on it. Yeah. So I never really looked closely at the back of it because I just assumed, oh, okay, this is a No Limit project.
Yeah, with the tank and all, absolutely. Yes,
exactly. Sir. But it wasn't. This was straight through Priority.
Straight through Priority. Priority, C-Loc, and No Limit at the time. Those combined efforts, yeah.
Got it. And from what I understand, it was a 6-figure deal.
Yes, sir. Nice.
Okay. How did it feel to get that first check?
At 22 years old, you cashing a check for over $100,000, whole nother world, man. And baby Baton Rouge, whole nother world, man. So yeah, dream come true, more or less, yeah.
Okay, what was the first thing you bought with the money?
I did the reasonable thing. I got a house, Vlad. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple of little vehicles. You know what I mean? You know, I was the type of guy that monetized thing. I didn't run out and just blow all my money. You know, I believe in get some grass under your ass, you know what I'm saying? Some foundation, so I did the first thing, man. Got a crib, you know what I mean? And then put my family up, you know, had wife and kids at the time. You know, that young, married, all that in the same year. My deal, new baby, you know what I mean? Marriage and all that, so I did the right, you know, the family thing, you know, situated my family and took off from there, yeah. So that was the first thing I did.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Sir. A lot of people spend it on jewelry, you know, on their friends, partying, and then next thing you know, they're broke again.
Yes, sir. You know, my situation was a crucial one, man. I had a police situation that happened down there, and we was mentioning some of the worst stuff that I saw and encountered myself. So I actually was stumped bloody by the police, man, within that same year. And I fought a trial out there that just went undisclosed. You know, we kept out the tabloids. So, yeah, they threatened my life a few different times, you know, and I'll tell you a million stories. But I was in jail actually getting that house. So I sent wifey with the money and all that, and by the time I come home, I did like a week in jail. And when I come home, that's what I came home to. So, yeah, it was real intense. It wasn't no time for play. So I kept it serious, man, yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, what were you charged with at that time?
What did they charge me with that? I forget what they called that charge, man, because they really pulled me over, followed me on some funny shit, and they used to always follow me. You know, my pops had like a 65 drop-top Cadillac, a 84 Corvette, and I was privileged to, you know, be able to get those cars young, so just it was unusual riding through the city, and I looked like a kid in the car, so I always get harassed like that. But when it came down to it, man, I don't know if it was resisting arrest or something crazy, and it's nothing that I did at all, you know what I mean? You know, true Ice Cube statement, black police held me down for the white cop, and you know what I mean? And just broad daylight in front of a church, in front of the wifey and all that type of thing. She pregnant, you know what I mean? That type of situation. So in the end, I really didn't do nothing at all. And I ended up getting 6 months in jail. That the lawyer I had, he retired after my case. And he said, you like every other black man in Louisiana, your word against theirs, the way the system is set up. And the best he could do for me was get it reduced to 15 days. We were still doing 2 for 1 at a time, so I did a week in the parish. But I shouldn't have been there at all, you know what I mean? That part.
Okay, so your first album comes out, My Balls and My Word.
Yeah.
And it goes to number 10 on the Billboard 200.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to say hip-hop and R&B, because it's like it was 2 billboards between 10 and 12, like you saying. Then I think just On the hip hop charts, I think it was the #1 record. Yeah, in like 3 weeks.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It was number 10 on the main Billboard 200
yes.
and #1 on R&B and hip hop.
Yes, sir. There it is. Yeah, man.
How did that feel to have a top 10 album, a #1 hip hop album? I mean, you were 24 years old at the time?
Oh, man. Yeah, well, really, no, 23. I turned 23. So, I come from American Bandstand, Soul Train, and I forget what Casey Kasem show used to be, with the top 10. So for that to take place in my life, like I said, in a spiritual sense and everything else, I was being prepared for what I didn't know I'd be prepared for. So when that happened, it blew my mind, you know what I mean? Absolutely. To be that young and at the top of the world, man, it was like Mike Tyson winning the belt at 21, man. You know what I mean? So that type of feeling and enthusiasm, man, I can't explain.
Okay. And there were other rappers from Baton Rouge, but you were the first one to actually have gold and platinum records.
I give credit to a guy by the name, one of my big homies by the name of Kuiper. If you remember this back in the day, he used, what's the rock group name? Yes, with the Owner of a Lonely Heart. He had a song called Tic Tac Toe. That was the first gold recording artist or rapper to come to bring the gold back to Baton Rouge. I was the sucker.
So, although there was another artist that had a pop song, I remember that song Tic Tac Toe. It was like it was a rap song, but more of a pop song.
Well, it was a rap song, but coming off, he had a vibe like Egyptian Loving Them and those guys, Arabian Prince, that type of kind of techno rap and songs like Ecstasy and all that type of thing. So far as gangsta and reality rap, it was two different zones. Yeah.
Right. So you were the first street rapper with a gold and platinum record. Like, how did it feel to be in Baton Rouge and essentially be the biggest thing in the city?
Oh, man, crazy. For the first couple of years, we couldn't perform in Baton Rouge. They'd tear the clubs up before we get there. So that's how it was jumping, you know what I mean? Yeah, that kind of going to Hollywood and California and coming back home, that kind of came back with us. It's like winning the World Series and everybody supported. The whole city was at an uproar with it. So, yeah, it was a beautiful thing. Crazy time, man.
Okay, and I'm going to say, and I'm being dead honest right now.
Yeah.
That is my favorite album from the No Limit umbrella.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that, man. Love you much for that, Vlad. Anytime you put it, if I don't see it, somebody send it to me. So when I say over 10 years, bro, I appreciate your love, respect, and support, man. Yeah, every time. Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I've been saying this for years. I mean, listen, everyone has their own opinion, and some people might say it's masterpiece, some people might say it's mystical, but for me, the album that I listened to the most over and over and over again was My Balls and My Word.
Yes, indeed.
Better Than Last Time, man, I love that song.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's favorites, man. Yeah, shouts out to Max Minnelli, man, absolutely.
Max Minnelli, exactly, on that. And Keep It Real is my other favorite song on it.
Okay, yeah, that was like the theme. I was looking for something to capture the essence of Louisiana, and when Happy come with those banjos and different things like that, that set it off for me. So, that's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Now, right about that time, 1998.
Yeah.
A 16-year-old Lil Boosie joins concentration camp.
Yes, was that 98? I want to say a little later after that, Vlad, because we grew into our breakup time, and I separated from the camp. So he'll come years later after I was already gone. So, 98, maybe early 2000, maybe like, I want to say maybe 2002, 4-ish or something like that, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken. But I knew it wasn't around that time because we still was kind of, functioning as a band of brothers.
Okay, because I looked it up. I mean, his first project, Youngest of the Camp, it was recorded in 1999 and released in 2000.
Okay, so I say 2000. Yeah.
2000, but 99 he was already around. And I talked to him this morning about it. He said, he was a little dude that was watching the music videos, getting filmed, and he was trying to, be affiliated, and then
he was his first definitely around. He was around, we done been a lot of places together, and there's a few songs that's documented that we got recorded. But, I remember that. Me and Silka Slim would bring him around me, you know what I mean? And I'd bring him around, and that type of thing. So he was, but I just didn't remember what date that Youngest in the Camp came out. But yeah, you're right, somewhere like that, 2000, 99, 2000.
Right, and Boosie's actually your cousin.
Yeah. Same block, same neighborhood, man. Yeah, we down the line family tree, you know what I mean? Yeah, a whole lot of stories there, but yeah, since real young, like I said, we got like a 9-year gap between us. So I ran with Bronson and Donk, and you know what I mean? And Donk, Big Brother Dion, that type of thing since like preschool, 4 years old, we've been running together. Yeah.
Okay, so the album comes out and it's a big hit.
Yeah.
And C-Loc, you know, who's also on the album, but he's also the CEO of the label.
Yes.
He ends up going to prison.
Yes.
What year was that around?
And see, you got me again there, because see, when that happened, we was on the verge of a breakup going into the deal, right? So by 99, when you look at my own album, Loc is not on that album, P is not on that album. You know what I mean? The only guys that was major outside of our circle was Daz and Too Short. You see what I'm saying? So when all that took place, I wasn't around anymore, right?
Okay, because C-Loc, I mean, from what I understand, it was around 99 when he went to prison, and he got 8 years in prison?
Yeah, I think so, something like that.
Okay, do you know what he went to prison for?
I think he had an altercation with one of the guys in the city, you know what I mean? Might have been a record company owner, I don't want to go far as saying his name, but different stuff like that, you know what I mean? So I believe between that and maybe even the radio station, just trying to, you know, do what we had to do to put the records out. You know how it was back in the days, Vlad, you know, if the sound man fucked up, they whooped the sound man, that type of thing, or meet you outside the radio station. So one of them type of situations he got involved in, you know, I don't know that story exactly other than what I'm told. But yeah, something like that. You know, he was already a parolee, you see what I'm saying? So he violated his parole, so that set him up for a minute.
Okay, so something basically that could have been avoidable.
I mean, I wasn't there to call it. You see what I'm saying? You know, it can go off of simple terms in the conversation. And knowing those guys, it could have, in 2 different parts of town, it could have been so many ways. So not knowing that directly, I don't want to quote it, you know what I mean? But it was something that, you know, obviously took place, you know?
Okay, so then your second album comes around, My Own.
Yeah.
Now, this is through Priority, but No Limit wasn't involved at all in this project, right?
Not at all. Not at all. Shouts out to Happy Perez again. He did the majority. No, maybe like four beats on there. Then Steve B-Lo will come into play. I don't know if Time produced nothing on that album. Steve B-Lo and my partner Los. I did like 12 songs. So right quick, another 12 songs. I signed a 7-album deal with Priority. So I'm prepping for the rest of my life, and then it all fall apart after that first record. So now I'm out here. I got to keep up with my quota. You know, I just kept the ball going. But yeah, that's when we all kind of separated, right? Right into the evolution and all the balls in my word. Yeah.
Okay, because you had a lot of success on that first project with Master P being involved. I mean, he's on multiple songs. There's a bunch of other No Limit artists that are involved in it. And honestly, you guys sound good together.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt.
So why make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to, you know, basically toss this winning formula and do it differently this time?
Well, the thing is, I didn't toss it at all. You see what I'm saying? I kept doing, I had like a 10-album template. If I ever got a deal, I'm going to start Balls of My Word being #1, next chapter, My Own, third chapter, Vintage. I continued doing everything that I said to do. But the affiliation and the vibe and everybody just went their separate ways, you know, and it's a million stories where that's concerned. So, you know, not thinking for nobody, not being so hands-on and being a No Limit artist like that. I just saw P-Num sometimes, tour time, shows, recording. We never really hung out, you know what I mean, that type of thing. So I'm back to Baton Rouge with my essence. Then me and Loc was Ice Cube, Eazy-E, you know what I mean? In that sense, we, you know, totally separated. And that kind of about diversion between the clique, and everything just was different at that time. And keeping in mind, I tried to put out an album every year and realized that in a time pattern, to do it comfortably and almost comfortably, I drop an album every 2 years because now I'm on tour for the first album. I'm not just at home in the studio and just dropping records every day. So it's getting off the road, getting back into your mind, all that. My career had took off. So I just kept up with my career. I'm directly dealing with Priority Record, and I got to turn in the record. So yeah, I always been the type of guy open to anybody that was open to work with me. And from there, yeah, they kind of went their different ways, and I went mine. You know what I mean? So that type of thing.
I mean, from your point of view, like I mentioned, you and Master P had a lot of success together in that first project. And you and C-Loc had a lot of success together in that same project.
Yes.
Why, once again, separate from someone you had the most success you ever had up to this point?
And, and trying to be discreet with you, you'd have been in New Orleans. Baton Rouge is one and the same. They call us the country boys and they the city slickers. So them fashions normally on a bad day don't get along. You understand? So I'm trying to avoid those type of confrontations. Now big money is on the table, and it's really at a cutthroat level with all of us. You see what I'm saying, at that time? And, from there, just to avoid it all, it was nothing, it don't fit, you can't force it. So that was that type of thing. I heard an interview with Master P saying this one time, and they asked, I don't know if that was an interview with you or somebody I was watching, was asking why him and Baby didn't do the same thing, being from the same New Orleans. And he described, or Baby described, one of them, that, okay, me and P is cool, but the guys that I roll with don't roll with P guys. You see what I'm saying? I remember being that Priority at the time when they were finna sign Cash Money after No Limit. And that didn't take place because Brian Turner, whoever didn't understand, wasn't coming to New Orleans and understood what our demographics was down there. So when they get past maturity and money and respect, and it's back to a street hood and a street level. So man to man, I just felt like I did the right thing I did for myself and my family as a man, still being open to everybody. But, I don't chase no chickens, man. I would say it like that. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, that second album, wasn't Pimp C, didn't he offer to produce that whole album?
Yes, sir, man, and I regret that to this. I do and I don't. I'm pleased with how my own turned out, but if I'd have knew some of the stuff I knew now, and just going at that pace, Vlad, and being that young, those guys had already been in the game, UGK, Master P, and them. So once I start to grow into those type of affiliations, I'm catching up with the big brothers. You see what I'm saying? So by the time I got Pimp, I'm at the end of and we have been talking for years. I'm at the end of finishing this record, these 12 songs. I just want to do this, turn it into Priority, get to the next. And I was actually on my way out here to Atlanta to record with Too Short. And Too Short got on that record for me. We talked about it, and he was like, yeah, that's who you put on it, put Pimp on it. Then whatever was going on with Pimp, me and Travel at the time, we could never just get together and make that happen. But when I, mentioned that to him, he said, Bleed, I'll do your whole album for you for $10,000 or so. So when I look at with the budget and different things now, I probably would have scrapped everything. But Happy was affiliated, still family, I'm trying to keep the unity, that type of thing. So I didn't want to scrap the whole project and start over and having a date that I had to turn it in. So that never took place. But Pimp C produced Bring the Noise on, Balls in My Word. Not directly for me. We talked about this before his passing. But he was happy I ended up with that record. I think it was initially for a Mystical or 504 Boy record. And when I wrapped up those 3 songs that last night, that's one of the joints I picked that P allowed me to have, on his strength. But that's the only production you'll have with me and Pimp C in life.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Pimp C one time, maybe a couple weeks before he passed, and he was just a star, man. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, in a sense, we had started calling Pimp like the Southern Tupac, man. More laid back in the pimpish way, but that kind of star persona. When he showed up, it was phenomenal. And me and Pimp had this conversation before he passed. We got the Pimpilation and different things now, but he never did a solo record, separate from Bond. But it's kind of like Ron and D. You might know Ron before you know D. The same kind of thing with Pimp and Bond, you know what I mean? And no lackadaisy or lack of respect when I say that. And then everything that came with Pimp, it was like Tupac going to jail. So when he came home with that same type of celebration into his past, yeah.
Around that time, because C-Loc went to prison.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said before, Boosie was signed to concentration camp.
Yeah.
And I talked to Boosie about this morning.
Yeah.
So I guess when CeeLo got locked up, he sold Boosie's contract to Trill Entertainment, which is Pimp C's company.
Yes, yes.
And so he moved from concentration camp to Trill around that time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know all what the business was, but I heard something along them lines, and I remember that transitioning. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the second album comes out, My Own.
Mm-hmm.
And it does well, but not as well as the first one. It does like 61 on the Billboard chart.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you feel after having, you know, a huge album as your debut, and the second one doesn't do quite as well?
I had my bittersweetness to that. You know what I mean? We still did. Maybe to this day, it's like, I don't know what it'll be to this day, but somewhere between then, 200, 300,000 records. And keep in mind, we come from the independent game. So, you know, at $10 a piece, that's like, what, $3 million? So I still was, you know what I mean? It was a successful thing. But of course, you know, like Redman to say before, you know, after the gold is, you know, I'm after the platinum. You know what I mean? So I wanted to double up the way my contract was set. If this money flipped, then we're going to double the money, keep doubling. So, you know what I'm trying, you know, I'm saying I'm trying to get the meal ticket, you know, like that, and stack my budget to $1 million budget. And that was taking place, but it stopped at a certain point based on, I don't want to go far as calling that record a failure, but it did less than Balls in My Word. I had to think back and say, okay, you know what I mean? I still kind of did what I set out to do, with Balls in My Word being gold in 3 weeks. To this day, it should be a platinum album, hands down. But definitely how you do that platinum off the Body soundtrack, because that's a platinum record. So I got, you know what I mean? I got my just, and the rest, I don't know what the situation over all that priority was, but while I was recording my third album, Vintage, they had that fold. You see what I'm saying? So the whole establishment separated. So I'm out here now. You see what I'm saying? I'm looking at the next, like I say, 7 albums, and I was only able to do 2. So that was bittersweet for me. My life dream come true. And it's like, soon as you get to the party, ain't nobody in the room. You know what I mean? So that type of thing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you have to think that this was a very different time when it comes to selling music. You know, these days, 1 million streams is like a few $1,000s.
Right.
Back then, you talking about, you know, you had a number 61 Billboard album and it sold 200,000-300,000 albums.
Right.
At $10 a pop.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember even watching a CeeLo interview recently where he basically said, like, it was just a, you know, back then, like, guys didn't charge that much for shows. Because they made most of their money off albums. You know, you do a show, and if you can sell a few, you know, 10,000 extra albums in that city, you've made more than whatever money you would have charged the promoters. So the shows were cheaper because the music money was way bigger because people are buying CDs back then. But that was starting to change. The bootlegging was coming. Napster was starting to come around, and people were downloading stuff for free. So it was a very, you know, I mean, I remember during that time, there was a serious conversation whether the record industry was going to be around in a few years.
Right, I used to hear that a lot. You know what I mean? And we wondered about that. P used to have to say that, hey man, I'm getting mine now. You know what I mean? Everybody do what you got to do. So like you said, in that time, the merger came along. Everybody started merging together. Right in, you got to look at, we was preparing for the end of the world wars in 1999, since Prince was saying 1999. So now we at 1999. Everybody's going to the banks, pulling their money out, getting water, canned goods, thinking the world is finna end. So that's why that My Own record is more spiritual kind of base going into, that was the setting, you see what I'm saying? And before you know it, the lights didn't cut off, we still out here, and what we do from now and then. From that, you know, technology just boomed from that. But that, what Pimp C used to call ghetto gold, you know what I mean? Selling 100,000 copies was gold in the ghetto, because that's $1 million at $10 a piece. So we wasn't tripping on that from an independent standpoint. You see what I'm saying?
So you end up leaving Priority after 2 albums.
Yeah.
And then you go independent, and Corleone's Vintage, that comes out independently.
Yes, sir. Selecto Hits.
Aha.
Yeah.
Right. Which was the big independent distributor during that time.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay. How did that album do?
Back to independent at the time, I don't know where to be now, but I know we did over 10,000 records with that. Made 100 grand, you know what I mean? Plus that type of thing. So here again, from the world I came from, it's like climbing a mountain and coming back down to the valley low. You see what I'm saying? Selecto hits. It's a funny thing, like banks. Banks will loan you all the money in the world as long as you got some money. But when you don't have no money, you know what I mean, nobody come to your aid. So I had Interscope, I want to say, Rootless, a few labels that was pitching at me since I was at Priority. But I'm a loyalist, you know what I mean? I'm going to stay down with the team unless it's shipwreck or what have we. But saying that to say this, yeah, going back to that, you know what I mean, it was still good money. And keep in mind, like Loke would say, you know, yeah, we started off getting no show money to some show money to once I got that deal, then now I'm getting 10 grand a verse, 10 grand for the shows, and it's all over the country. So I was making money, so I really wasn't complaining and tripping, you know what I mean? Just looking for the perfect plateau to launch off and relaunch again. And here again, shouts out to those guys in Memphis, Mr. Johnny Phillips and all his kids and nephews that was there. That opened the door for me coming off of Priority back into the independence. I started, my first label was called, second label. I started a label called Criminal Records, but I didn't get it off the ground. Then we come back with Detention Home Entertainment, right into Selecto here. So yeah, and that 10,000 plus, area, is what Vintage did, yeah.
Okay, so then in 2005, you signed to C-Bo's West Coast Mafia Records.
Yeah, we actually did like what would you call that? The same kind of like a merger. We merged our companies together. Detention Home and West Coast Mafia. You know what I mean? Shouts out to big bro C-Bo, man. And, a whole lot of days, whole lot of ways, man. He was one of those guys, too, that recognized me and come down to Texas in particular to take me on a tour and just whatever I needed in support of. So we became, best of brothers and homies and all that good shit. And his sister used to live like 6-7 minutes down the road from where I was living in Garland, Texas or something. So we'll wake up to each other every day, go to the studio, get us some smoke, something to eat, and we rock for a long time, and still to this day, man. Yeah.
Now, wasn't Roy Jones Jr. somehow involved in that?
Yeah, the funny thing, I was between those fashions, you know what I mean? Me and Bo had our relationship, and Magic, rest in peace, turned me on to Roy Jones. I used to hear Roy had always wanted to meet me and so on and so forth, so we finally got an opportunity. After moving to Dallas, I flew to Pensacola to meet him, and between those records, I was trying to, work it on both sides. I was working on a record called, I was doing Rise Through the Ranks, Under the Capo in 2005 in the West Coast Mafia direction. Then I ended up doing another record called Once Upon a Time in America in the Roy Jones direction. So if you look, I was trying to rebirth what was there with those type of independent millionaires and street millionaire guys, you know what I mean, and bring us all to the table. And I believe, I'm not mistaken, you'll see that on the back of Once Upon a Time in America, where the West Coast Mafia stuff is advertised, the Body Head stuff is advertised, and I'm the good in between. So yeah, between those worlds, that was two of the brothers that reached down and, made sure I had what I needed to keep it going. Yeah.
Now, by 2007, Kevin Gates started releasing his first projects. Now, you guys were working together early, right?
Well, the truth about that, Gates, wherever he come from before South Baton Rouge, my big homies put him on, Dead Game. Shouts out to them guys over there. And I knew of him in the neighborhood. Actually, I remember being at a house party a year or two before Gates blew up and doing a show in Jackson, Mississippi. And we had an after party, house party. And he was in there, and we chopping it up, and somebody identified me, brought me the mic, so he wanted to rap, freestyle, do something like that. So I give him the mic, and I remember nobody was really paying attention to him. See, about a year after that, phenomenal. So somewhere along his career, he did a mixtape. I forget what you call that. And it's something like whatever you call it or something. I forget the name of it. But that's our first and only time doing the record together. As a matter of fact, the night we did that record, I bought C-Bo to Baton Rouge for the first time. We drove all the way from Texas to Baton Rouge, and stopped that dead game, and we recorded 2 songs. One was with C-Bo. I don't know if that record was ever released, but the one we did was called Play It How It Go. So that's the only record we'll have together, but we've been homies since, back then.
Okay, so then by 2011, you signed to Strange Music, or a subsidiary of Strange Music called Strange Lane Records?
Strange Lane, that's it, exactly. Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you and Tech N9ne have a relationship?
Nah, the funny thing about that, I was a Tech fan since Questions off the gang-related record. Just hearing that style, and I thought it was a West Coast cat because it blended right with the West and what was going on and the movie and the whole nine. But I didn't know Tech prior to that. The whole connection with that is shouts out to my guy Chauncey Clyde out in the Kansas City area. It's a rapper, promoter guy, and good friend of mine for years. Happened to be in cahoots with all those guys, and Dave Weiner from Priority was my guy, you know what I mean, since I got off the plane the first time in California. Dave had become vice president over there, and I was working on a record with Chauncey Clyde and my guy Money Waters out there in Dallas, Texas called Three-Headed Monster. And I think they was riding, listening to that record, and he realized that Chauncey knew me. And he was like, yeah, Bleed, get Bleed on the phone. So we ended up talking about what I was doing, and between that West Coast Mafia time, me and Bo figuring what we was gonna do, Dave offered me that deal that Travis, of course, accepted, and Tech N9ne. So I was really on the tour with Strange before I even went up to the compound. And I went up to meet him and Trav that same, like a Saturday or something. I was doing like a 2-week run that ended up 2.5, 3 months after we met each other, and I rode like from the South and the whole Midwest up north and back to Kansas. But that's how we really met. When you look at it, it's a thing on YouTube, and you see me doing an interview, and when he walk up to me with the red, sweatsuit on, that's our first time meeting right on camera. It happened like that. So that's how I met Tech. Yeah.
Okay, and you put out the Preserved album.
Yeah.
Through them.
Yes.
Okay, but then by 2012, you left the label?
Yeah, man. Same depth and style, to where I was promised a few things, you know what I mean? Even coming off a Strange Lane, it kind of sabotaged while I was putting that record out. I'm on tour. So, I was told once we got back that we was going to get off of that and sign me officially to Strange. That never happened. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, and shouts out to Soren Baker, too, man. Soren came through while I was putting everything together and offered to do a book deal with me. So we did a book that's called The Making of Preserved, you know what I mean? Available on Amazon.com as well. So we did that album and the book, the whole nine, and they just didn't, see me to fruition, you know what I mean, for what the promises was told. So it's nothing bitter there, but I ran with them for maybe a year, 2 years or something like that, and then everything just went back to what it was.
Right, and then you released 3 more albums. You released Livin' in 2017, What a Life in 2019, and Signs and Wonders in 2020.
Yeah, and more recently, after Signs and Wonders is a prequel to an album I put out after that called There Is a God. Is the most recent solo album that I put out. But those records, yeah.
Okay. Well, there was a situation in 2019 where you were at a Greyhound bus station.
Yeah, you know about that. You do your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Just traveling this great country, I was Vlad. Where we come from, it's a lot of working people, hustling people, doing what you got to do to survive as well as anywhere else. So a lot of times I had to travel on my own, you see what I'm saying, after a while. And I got so used to doing that, planes, trains, to automobiles, and was in Houston. Actually, my son is in the building, Taj Rahman. We was off of Houston doing some work in Houston for the weekend. I had the choice to go back home. He lived in Texas with me for a while, and I'll go back in Dallas or somewhere, try to make a little bit more money while I was in the Texas area. So I let son go home, and I hopped on the Greyhound and went to Dallas and never left the Greyhound station once we got to Dallas. That's how hungry Dallas was and active it was at the time. I didn't know these guys in particular, but I just walked into a Waltz net, wrong place, wrong time. You know what I mean? So yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess what, they robbed you?
Yeah, but not even, at a gunpoint thing. I'm hanging, you know, smoking a little, drinking a little. Just really, you know, I'd been jammed up on the bus. Before we left Houston, we might have sat in the bus station for a couple of hours. So, you know, you can't smoke a cigarette, do nothing. So I'm nerved up. The first thing I want to do is go smoke me a cigarette. As soon as I walked outside, everybody kind of at you. So I'm sliding up and down the sidewalk to eventually, yeah, I hit the blunt, man, that type of thing. And what they end up slipping on me was something they call K2. It's a synthetic weed or something like that. Just had me high on my rock like kryptonite. So like all, you know, all but my feelings, my heart was beating fast. And in the midst of that, the guy just kind of took advantage of me. About 7 or so guys rushed my bags and roughed me up, took my wallet. You know, I ain't do nothing to that degree, which I thought, you know, they was finna grab a pistol and different things like that. But God saw fit that I was able to see nobody was behind me, and I kind of slid back in the Greyhound. You know, long story. But that's the briefing of that, Vlad, yeah. So they run out. They took my rings, they took my Rolex. I looked at the homies and said, damn, what's next?
What's next?
I stashed all my shit in my bags, you know what I mean? But they, yeah, a whole lot of shit.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't even think to, you know, ride a Greyhound in my 40s.
Right,
like that,
right.
That's just you know, that's just a wild thought for me. You know, you mean a Greyhound station seems kind of sketchy to me.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, Dallas is like my second home. When I uprooted from Louisiana, like in 2004, I moved to Dallas, and based on a whole lot of connecting back and forth. You know what I mean? So not saying, you know, everything everywhere you go, but I was comfortable enough. I was just waiting for a ride. What could happen in 40 minutes while you waiting for the ride? You see what I'm saying? So that's how that happened, man. Here again, wrong place, wrong time. But yeah, that type of thing, man. Yeah, and a lot of guys, then I had a lot of friends and family out there. I was so miscombobulated, I couldn't even pick up my phone and use it. I started getting my senses back about 7 a.m. the next morning, and I rode the bus from Dallas back to Shreveport. So that time, I called you, son, and yeah, that type of thing. So yeah, crazy.
Last year, 2023, there was a No Limit reunion tour.
Yes.
And you only did one of those shows?
I want to say 2018, I did one of those shows. November 30th. I'd never forget, because it was that one date. You know, and the same like anything else, I was promised to do 5, 7 other dates. And, you know, it's just so much with that, Vlad, it's crazy. You know what I mean? I always make myself accessible. You know what I mean? I don't have no personal plexus with nobody. But I can't speak for the next person and why from the top that is by the time I'm translated a message and it don't go, you know what I mean? I'm a man of my vows and my word. You know, my pop raised me that way. So when it don't go like that, you know, it puts me in an uncomfortable feel. So it just didn't work out past those few dates. A few things took place, and I just kind of walked away from the tour, left it where it was. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can look at it both ways. I mean, number one, you did have a huge song that No Limit artists were on, but technically you're not a No Limit artist.
Right, right, no doubt.
You know, you could look at it both ways, but I mean, but how you do that was one of the big No Limit songs, so you would think that they'd want you performing that more often.
One of the biggest hip-hop records ever, beyond No Limit, Vlad. You see what I'm saying? And he, again, just being a man of your word. If you tell me we're going to do this day, this, that, and the other, everybody calling me around the country and say, hey, man, your name is on the marquee. It's on the flyers. I used to call Silk all the time, like, hey, bro, if I'm not coming to the show and getting paid, take my name off of it. That's the conversations behind the scenes. Go talk to P or whoever, hey, man, I'm here. I came from Baton Rouge by myself. No bodyguards, went to New Orleans, took the flight, chance of life, with your life. What's the problem? You see what I'm saying? Nobody has ever officially told me, well, this we don't like about you or whatever the case might be. So I've been in trivia for over 20 years. You know what I mean? With the minor plexus, yeah, when it comes to business. You know what I mean? And keep in mind, we didn't grow up with each other to have that type of thing. Everything always been business. And I got something that still make money that they still perform to this day. So what's the problem? You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, did you and Master P ever sit down at some point and just have a deep conversation about everything, or no, not really?
Well, the thing, from what I was told, Vlad, that night I did that show, we were supposed to. That was part of the reason I went out there, to sort out all our indifferences and with anything and go from there. And it just never transpired. They don't hold up to the end of the bargain. I'm sitting here with you. We just left from Baton Rouge at 4 this morning just to come. I was supposed to do a show Saturday night here and didn't do the show. But I made it a point that we'll get here. I actually talked to your guy yesterday, and I thought it was Monday. But we waited another day, and yeah, we struck our foe this morning. That's the type of guy that I am. If I give you my word, if I can be there, if I can't, I'm gonna let you know so. So here again, you know, it's two sides, you know.
You look at Baton Rouge these days, and the biggest artist out of Baton Rouge today is NBA Youngboy.
Yeah, right.
And you're related to him as well, right?
Yeah, here again, my son is in here, man. My son's mother is their cousin, so my kids are kin to him. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's close enough. And a lot of us family that's around, we had never met face to face. I went to school with his mother, and rest in peace to his uncle. You know, that was my homeboy, so I knew his mother and his uncle long before, you know, his existence. And my kids, for that matter, so we kind of evolved around the same time. You know, I was a young father, 17, and this is my firstborn, so yeah, they kin to him, so I called it that way, you know. That I know of, you know what I mean? Like I said, Baton Rouge, we might be twice, triple. You never know, you know?
Well, you talked about the violence that happens in Baton Rouge. You said for some of these youngsters, they believe hip-hop just started in 2000. They don't respect the old school.
Right.
And you feel there's a lack of education and consciousness. And there is a lot of violence when you look at like the young boy, you know, Fredo Bang beef and, you know, everything that went around that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Baton Rouge and how things spill over from just rapping into violence?
When that street ethic take over and you can't separate the streets from the business, you see what I'm saying? That type of thing. When you got an epidemic of poor, struggling people, you know what I mean? A dog and a raccoon to jump in the garbage can to feed themselves. You see what I'm saying? So you got that type of level of poverty. The dope game, the fentanyl, and the way it is now. I just went to 2 funerals last week, one Saturday, one Wednesday, and I had 2 of my partners, lifetime partners, 35 and 39 years old, one alcohol and one the fentanyl, and it's a gang of that. So that's what's taking place in my city, murder for murder right now. I just, one of my cousin's fiance was just murdered. It's a whole thing going on in Baton Rouge right now. They outraged about killing this girl, you know what I mean, before she could marry my cousin. They just carjacked her, murdered this lady about a week ago. So this is broad daylight in Baton Rouge right now. So the kids, it's outrageous, and this is, you know, the history, it's on YouTube now. And it's all but shameful. You see what I'm saying? That we didn't grew to that point of violence. You know, shouts out to Silk and Slim again. They got, you know, with the Stop the Violence, Stop the Killing campaign. So we working on something. I just left Houston, Vlad, and maybe you could help me with this. And it's something that hadn't been done for Southern hip hop. And I know we need this in our city and definitely the Third Coast. We need a self-destruction. It hadn't been done. With all the rappers and everybody that got money, I'd like to see that come together and we could do something to get in these communities, you know what I mean, to help level some of this ground. Shouts out to my Uncle Chairman Fred up there in Chicago. I'm a baby Cub Panther. So not just a rapper, you know, community activist. That always been my unity with the music, bringing us away from that. Let's get into this and employ people, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So right now, to this day, it's murder for murder in Baton Rouge. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, I just interviewed Boosie, and we talked about the Kendrick and Drake beef, and he was always very vocal about not liking rap beef. And in our last interview, he said something interesting. He said 95% of the murders in Baton Rouge are over rap beef.
Once I got to a point in life when hip-hop beef affected me and all the people I was around, and, you know, I choose not to agree with it, Vlad. You know, most of my beefs came from people rapping about me. Street wars came from people rapping about me. Once I got older and I enjoyed watching it when it was Pac and Biggie. When Pac came back, I was a Tupac head, but I was 12 and 13 years old. I never experienced a rap beef when I got to rapping at 15 that didn't result in somebody losing their life. 95% of the murders in my city are rap beef. Chicago, 95% of the murder. And once you get a grown man, you realize every rap beef has led to destruction.
And that's what's crazy. We got our street shit since the 70s, and all that. But to get to this point, it's a God-blessed game, and to go backwards is the craziest shit in the world. You see what I'm saying? I was looking at an interview with Pimpin' Ken the other day, and he was describing how the father taking out the home, these mothers are raising emotional babies, you see what I'm saying? The killers is kids that's raised by women. And when women don't respect the man no more, then she the mama and the daddy. You see what I'm saying? So that fabric, definitely in the black community and in other communities as well, has been taken out of our household, so we don't have no leadership. See, we come from the 70s, we coming out the 60s, when it was still Martin, Malcolm, and Huey and those kind of guys, where we had something to kind of hold on to. In the 90s, fast forward the tape, that became Tupac, Public Enemy in the 80s. You see what I'm saying? That kind of leadership always been there, but the farther we get away from that cloth, it's nobody left. You see what I'm saying? So what the kids gonna do? You know what I mean? Yeah, you're gonna adapt to your adaptation, you know, with your environment, what's around you.
Well, when you look at the NBA YoungBoy situation, he was on house arrest. Yeah. He was living in a big mansion in Utah and had all his kids there and was on snowmobiles. But the pills, you know, he just couldn't leave them alone.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting arrested and charged 63 times.
Yes, indeed.
For drug fraud. And he got sent back to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
But he's got that case and he's got a federal case, so he's still in jail right now.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole situation? Because he was really, I mean, NBA YoungBoy, I feel, has the most envious rap career of anyone. He puts out whatever he puts out. He doesn't promote it.
Yeah.
He's got platinum on top of platinum records. He's got a ravenous fan base. If he were to go on tour, he would probably do stadiums, you know, if he wasn't on house arrest.
Absolutely.
And with all that success, he just can't keep off drugs. And now he's in a jail cell, not knowing when he's coming home.
I walk the streets of Baton Rouge, ride the streets of Baton Rouge now, and we joke about this, but seriously, I'm doing like 2 solo albums right now. Shouts out to Lee Young and Swisher House and Mike Watts and those guys in Houston. We finna put out an album called Full Circle. But saying that to say this, I'm working on an album in the backdrop of that I'm calling Therapy. You see what I'm saying? It's like an open hospital. Everybody got, you know, have their own chemical balance. So you got that going on. So if you used to smoking weed, drinking, or doing, you've been doing it so long, then that's not a switch that you could just turn off overnight. You see what I'm saying? And whatever that, you know, the man is going through mentally, you know, everybody knows this is in his records and so on and so forth. So how long can you be still in the house? You can give me everything in the world, but if it's not feeding my appetite or what's my craving, then we got to find a solution to that too. So, and being a younger man, that's his way of finding that solution. So behind some syrup or whatever the case might be, come on, man, there's people getting murdered every day, man. Life more serious than that. So, you know, shouts out to him, you know, shit, baby cuz, I'm, you know, real proud of his success. They've been trying to put us together for years to meet face to face. I could tell you a few things. I was just there when such and such was murdered, and he was there, I was in the house, and you see what I'm saying? So I'm that up close and personal and near and dear with that, to where I understand that situation. You know what I mean? Everybody, from Funkadelic to UGK and Pimp C, saying everybody got a thing, right? That's prescription drugs or something else. If that's water that gets you into your, you know what I mean, every day. So if that's what you want to pin on him, you know what I mean, come on, man, give me a break. It's other things to do out here. So I wish him well in this situation.
Yeah, no, it's a very sad situation. Because, I mean, no matter how bad he had it on house arrest, it doesn't hold a candle to being in a jail cell.
No. It's a whole nother ballgame. And then that don't help. That make it worse. It make his situation worse. And, you know, different things he already, you know what I mean? Come on, man. You trying to help or hurt. So, you know, that goes so many ways with the system, Vlad. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot come with that.
Yeah, man, it's dangerous. You know, you talked about going to a funeral. One of your friends who just died of fentanyl, you know, I was friends with Gangster Boo.
Yeah.
We had hung out a couple of weeks before she died of fentanyl.
Yes, indeed. I'm real cool with Lil Chat, and Chat was telling me Boo was going through some things, maybe a few months prior to that. See, when I was Rap, I had an album that I was doing. I know a lot of the great female MCs. Rest in peace to Boss. I lived in Detroit for a while. She was a good friend of mine. So what I would talk to all them about, how we do these compilation of different things, the guys, you know what I mean, especially in Texas. And, you know, for a while, you know, back in the 80s, you remember it was all but absurd to have another MC on your record. But more in the South, that became our upbringing. So I mentioned to all the girls, y'all never thought to do a whole Queen, you know what I mean? Put all the greatest female rappers together, then open the door for the underground female rappers. I was working on an album called Gangsters. You see what I'm saying? Or Mobsters. I think it was Mobsters. And I wanted to kind of host that record. I have a plethora of producer partners. I produce myself, so I had actually about 15 albums in my computer when they arrived me, Vlad, that the music I'd still turn over at night, because I could never get that back. And minus the jewelry and everything, when I put my thing up on YouTube, I was hoping to get my music back. You see what I'm saying? But that's crazy, you know what I mean? That's crazy, but I was working on that and that effort for, you know, the females to kind of come together, and that didn't happen, so yeah.
Who do you think made the biggest impact on Louisiana? Cash Money or No Limit?
To me, it's one and the same. That's like two good hands right there. Both of them reach, you know, multi-million-dollar status, multi-platinum status. I know the guys on both sides. I'm cool with Baby Slim and Juvie, BG, and Turk and Wayne, all, you know, and us just in crossing, you know what I mean? So I always wish anybody's anywhere, anything good, and definitely the guys in our section. And I know somewhat of the difference between that. P them becoming more commercial before Cash Money, they're in the same equilibrium. You see what I'm saying? They reach the same height, so it's a good equal to me, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and you talked about this earlier, you know, about how people don't work together not because of the bosses, but because of people around them.
Right.
You know, I just did another interview with Terrence Gangster Williams, who was, you know, Baby's
brother.
Little brother.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, he was a terror out in New Orleans.
Yes, sir, yeah.
You know, he admitted to 40 murders.
Yes, I heard about it, yeah.
Yes. And, you know, he talked about how it was because of him that No Limit and Cash Money never worked together, because there was rumors that he had killed this person or he was responsible for this, and, you know, everyone was sort of uneasy.
The question that people ask, why No Limit and Cash Money artists never hooked up to do a song. That wasn't going to happen because of me and T-Dub about the Calio project. Because when we was at war, you got Cash Money over here with me, Blabber, and the Shooters over here, and you had No Limit over there with T-Dub, Wango, KK, you know, guys over there. So how you gonna do a song together, and then you got to go perform this song? So now you got guys that's actually beefing, street beef that is on site when we see each other. That was never going to happen. So, you know, I like how they tap dance around it, but you got two enemies on both sides. This was never going to happen.
And like I said, like Baby and P never necessarily had a problem with each other.
Right.
But the people around them made it impossible for them to, you know, collaborate. Because imagine if the two of them, you know, if No Limit and Cash Money went on a tour together and put out a compilation album together, and you have songs with everyone, like it would have been the biggest thing ever.
Yes, absolutely.
You know?
I agree. When you really come from the street hood, Vlad, you see what I'm saying? It's a different thing. I know P used to get on some of the guys about going hang out after they got the big deals and different things. And that's kind of my difference. I always been like a freelancer. To, well, if I'm in Milwaukee, I'm in the gutter in Milwaukee. If I'm in Chicago, I'm gonna be in those dangerous places because I come from a dangerous place. And if you wanna, you know, be a part, the solution to the problem, you gotta go back in. So you can't just come from the projects or shotgun houses and never come back to your neighborhood, but you repping your neighborhood all the time. Then your mama look at you different, your neighborhood, you see what I'm saying? So that's hard to do. That's like being a fake politician. And that's the chance we all take. You know what I mean? Any prophet, you know what I mean? Anybody that's walking and trying to do anything that got to do with change, you gotta go into the problem to fix the problem. You see what I'm saying? So here again, that's something that's bittersweet. I hate the demographic of that, but until that change, you see what I'm saying? We can go a lot of ways from that, you know what I mean? Woodstock Charles Manson in the Hollywood Hills killing everybody. You see what I'm saying? He come from a certain thing that's going to eventually grow into that other thing if we don't find a way to reconcile somewhere on the good in between. So there's no way around it. You know what I mean? You know, the world's it always been a crazy place and crazier nowadays. You know what I mean?
Well, you lived in 40 different states?
41 at least a weekend, I say, Vlad. I done stayed at least a weekend. Some places I done stayed for months, some I done stayed for years. You know what I mean?
Okay. But now you moved back to Baton Rouge.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember one of my first interviews with Boosie, it became famous because he had a term called hypnotized with hatred.
Yeah, I remember him saying that.
Yeah. And he talked about how he finally had to move out of Baton Rouge because he felt that if he stayed there, the people around him were hypnotized with hatred, they were going to kill him.
And they develop envy because they go home. They get out the car with their friend, with their other partner, and he listening to your music. They walk in the house. They girl listening to your music. They go downstairs. The kids doing a dance to your music. Now they are hypnotized with hatred. They are hypnotized with hatred. They didn't go downstairs. They niece ain't even spoke to him when they walk in the house. They just singing Boosie. They niece ain't didn't say, hey, uncle, or nothing. They just singing Boosie. They get back in the car and go to the store with they cousin in the car. They say, oh, that's a car like Boosie. That's a car like Boosie. Okay, they let son get in the car. Dad, I want some chains like Boosie. All right, now you hypnotized with hatred. I'm tired of hearing about him. I'm tired of hearing about this guy. I know what I'm gonna do. And that's how it started, man. They get hypnotized. They get hypnotized, man.
You know, so he ended up moving to Atlanta. You know, we got the big Boosie Estates. He's happy. He comes back to Baton Rouge and does stuff, but he said he'll no longer live there.
Right.
You know, when you hear him say that, now you live in Baton Rouge, how do you feel about that statement?
I was the first, well, you know, I was one of the first to do it. I say like that. When I mentioned that Dallas became my second home, you know, I was running with older guys and people were saying that. As a matter of fact, when I first signed to Priority, everybody was moving to Sugar Land in Houston. You see what I'm saying? Even Loke moved to Houston at the time. I always stayed home. You know what I mean? My roots is home. My mother's still alive. My brother, shouts out Lucky Knuckles. You know, my brother just, you know, coming through cancer, man. It's my only brother by my mother. So some things you need to be home to support family. And I hate to be anywhere way across the country and I can't get there in time to do that. So I always said when my parents got toward their 60s and 70s like that, I'm gonna stay a little bit close around just in case. You know what I mean? But he right from the street hood. You know, it's like that. You know, we say this here, you know, in the term, motherfucker to kill you for nothing. Where we come from. In Baton Rouge, we say a person to throw dirt on you while you walk. Before you dead, they come. So it's that. With the rapper thing times 10. So here again with the guys robbing me, even those little guys, they could have did a whole lot of stuff. But eye to eye, heart to heart, man to man, they was hungry kids like we was in the streets. And they saw an opportunity. So if you see if it's bread, you gonna eat. And it don't matter it's me, him, or whoever. You know what I mean? A wolf catch you in the jungle, you know what I mean? That type of thing. So he's 100% right. Sad but true. And everything else, like I say, that go with it, that fuels that hate, you see what I'm saying? It's throwing gas on the fire. So you have, you know, good people in the world, you got crooked, demonic people in the world that just go for bad. So anytime, you see us sitting up, somebody gonna take the chance. So, sad but true.
Well, Young Bleed, man, I'm glad we finally made this happen. You got classics under your belt.
Thank you, sir.
Man, you know, you really created magic.
Yes, sir. Thank you,
with
man.
some
I appreciate
of these
you
albums, man.
recognizing.
Like I said, and you know, I was bumping that first album, you know, for the last few days, just remembering how great of a project it is, man. It's really like timeless music, man. You're definitely a legend from the South. And
thank you, my brother.
You know, I truly appreciate you coming in. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let me say this for the record, Vlad. Everybody, look for me in the hood near you, in the city near you. Shouts out to Baby Savage, the God of Grind, man. We on like 100-city tour across the country, man. So I'm going to be showing up in a few places. Vlad, I work my way back to California, man. I'm going to tap your shoulders, come see you in the flesh. I appreciate you. Much love and respect, my brother, for having me through, man. Hold it down, and we going to hold it down.
That's what it is, man. Until next time.
Yes,
Peace.
sir. Peace.